Welcome to the Church Solutions Podcast, brought to you by JSL Solutions. The Church Solutions Podcast is designed to help equip you and your church in the use of technology and other tools and services. And now, here are your hosts, Steve Lacey and Phil Thompson.
Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Church Podcast. Church Solutions
Podcast. Forgot the name there.
I forgot what we were doing here. My name is Phil Thompson.
Hi, and I'm Steve Lacey.
And we are so glad you are with us today to the Church Solutions Podcast. And we hope that you'll take a moment to check us out on iTunes. Just look for Church Solutions Podcast, and you can review us. You can give us a rating.
Yes.
And let us know. We're also available on YouTube. If you look for streamingchurch.tv on YouTube, we've got our podcast. The audio only is on YouTube. Although one of these days we need to go back, probably and shoot video at the same time. We should do that. Yeah, because people want to see what we look like. Not really. Where else? We're on newmediaministries.tv, so that's a good place to find us. So Steve Lacey is our founder, our CEO of JSL Solutions. We provide, what do we provide for churches?
We provide our primary product is streamingchurch.tv, which provides online streaming for churches. We create a web campus for churches online. And we also provide Church App Live, which is a mobile app, and myflock.com, which is a church management system and a content management system.
We do this because we have a real heart for churches. We are both involved in churches. In fact, really our whole team is involved in their churches. Steve is in leadership at his church. I am in my church. And we just have a real vision and heart to help churches use technology to reach people and to grow.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. And so a lot of times we'll talk about tech-related things. Sometimes we'll talk about leadership stuff. Sometimes we'll talk about what we had for dinner, But,
no,
we don't do that. But,
not too much. Always ministry related, but not always tech related.
Exactly. So this is kind of a little bit of in some ways, tech related because it involves your computer. Today we're going to talk about?
We're talking about 6 ways to use Facebook to get new people to your church.
6 ways to use Facebook to get new people to your church. Now, social media, we don't have to tell you, is a huge deal, and it can be overwhelming. Especially if you're involved either as a pastor or maybe you're a volunteer at your church and you got a lot of things going on that you're doing at your church or your family and everything else mixed in. So then you got to look at social media. But if you really do it right and maybe choose 1 or 2 social media platforms, you don't have to get overwhelmed with it. And Facebook is what we're talking about today. And Facebook recently surpassed 1.23 billion monthly active users. 1.23 billion with a B. And they have 945 million mobile users, according to these stats, and they have 757 million daily users. So there are people on Facebook. I mean, it's not just young people anymore. It's your grandparents, it's teachers, it's everybody on there. And so those are some pretty impressive milestones. Facebook also, of course, as while it started with social, now they've figured out a way to make money on it. And they are, you can buy ads on Facebook, you can promote your post, you can boost or boast, or I guess boost is the word, whatever you're doing.
Right.
So there's a lot of things you can use for Facebook. It really has become pretty dominant.
Right. So we're not going to talk about the advertising route here today.
No, not today.
I don't think. We're just going to talk about the free route, right?
Right. But you do need to know that there is some things you could possibly do. But again, it is a challenge when you're talking about the advertising route. And so you have to do some research. And one of these days we'll bring in Mike or somebody to talk a little bit more about that stuff. So let's talk about, first of all, how can we use it? How can we make this work to grow our churches, to reach new people? So here are some basics. The first one being?
The first one is actually use it. Post frequently.
Post frequently. So this is something that you've got to do it if you're going to start doing social media for your church, for your ministry, even for your business for that matter, is you got to have an active page. And so if you're not posting pictures, If you're not posting status updates, if you're not really sharing information, your page is going to be stagnant. It's going to be stale. It's going to be, you know,
it's kind of a death knell. Someone goes to your page and say, "Oh, the last post was from, last summer or this past Christmas," or
right.
Same is true for your website as well.
Yeah.
Definitely want to avoid that mistake on your church website, but you want to post frequently to Facebook to keep it fresh and vibrant.
So, here's what I do with our pages. I have to schedule them. I mean, I have a little to-do list every day, and so I will look at that. I know you don't believe me, but I will look at that, and I will find things like with streamingchurch.tv. We have a Facebook page. Just go to facebook.com/streamingchurch.tv. We have one for Church App Live too,
right?
And we have other deals as well. What else we got? But
we have Twitter accounts,
and LinkedIn accounts, and all that. And we're not going to talk about all those today. But again, I have to schedule it, and that would be my tip to you: would be to schedule it, and that way, you just do it and you get it done. I'm not sure on our notes here if we really talk about where to get some resources for that.
Right, because there's you have access to some resources. I don't think we were going to talk about them, but we can interject them here, Earl.
I'm sure people are thinking, okay, well, what do I post? So one of the things I have found out over the years is that if you post an image, it really seems to get more attention. And so, maybe images that would be, and it doesn't have to be necessarily of your church. In fact, it may not be a good idea to post images of your church, depending on what's going on. If it's something like a baptism or something that's maybe, pretty active and pretty dynamic, yes. But just posting pictures of your parking lot or your, maybe if it's a good picture of your band or a good picture of your choir, a quality one, yes. And I'm not saying you can't post pictures of the pastor or the pastor's wife or something like that, but I would also mix in something that would be related to maybe what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. So some activity going on, or
something that's related. And then the other thing that really honestly gets a lot of traction are funny videos or funny pictures. And so there are some things you're going to have to do a little research, but if you do some research and bookmark some of these different places, you can find funny church signs. That people that have, somebody's got a website out there.
Yeah, think creatively at your church, something that's going on, and how you can create a funny picture out of that.
Yeah, exactly. So you can take it to the next level, but it does involve a little bit of homework and realizing, okay, here's the plan. So maybe come up with a plan. Here's what we could do to spice things up a little bit. And I would suggest that you post 3 or 4 times a week. If you can. I think that would be very active. And then even if you're posting about a message series coming up, you can do something like that, but do it in a timely fashion, and then maybe have something in text that's going to entice people to come, you know what I mean? So that it's not just an ad per se, but it's like, maybe the values, learn about our values or what we believe is important and why we think this is important. And, try to look at maybe some creative ways to write some text to go along with the picture.
And, there's a whole art behind how to write good, subject lines or good taglines and things.
But again, getting back to what we said here, and that is, you want to do it on a regular basis. You want to post frequently, and you want to really make it something so it's not stale. It's not just, there it is and we forgot about it kind of a deal. So, all right.
So the next topic we're going to talk about the next suggestion is to interact with people.
This is what a lot of people fail to do is you post something and then maybe somebody will pop in and say they like it, or they will make a comment about the post, but then nothing else happens. So I would suggest, again, Facebook has a great way of showing you feeds. You can get feeds to your phone that somebody responded to a post. You can, check it maybe once a day after you post and see if somebody's responded, and then try to interact. I mean, that's one of our big things with what we do with our company is we're real big on interactivity.
Right.
streaming and mobile apps and all that stuff, even our websites. And so,
You
interacting
want
is a
to
good
get
thing.
a conversation going.
Yeah,
with
get the
whatever's
conversation going. Especially if it's something, I don't think it's wrong to even post something controversial, as long as it's in good taste and you're not maybe slamming somebody. But if it's, and then you get some discussion going and then, interact with that and maybe
Mhm.
even share that post with somebody else. But if you don't interact, that you're losing out on that as well. And so interactivity is again, it's social networking. So social means interacting with people, being involved with people. And
Right.
so that's also true when it comes to people liking your page. You put together a Facebook page, somebody likes it. I don't think it's bad at all to respond to that person and say, hey, thanks for liking our page.
Mhm.
That kind of a thing. So
Yeah. So it's all about just keeping some life in the page.
Right. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
through regular posts, and then as people interact, you interact with them as well.
All right. So we've got post frequently, interact with people. What's the third?
So the third
key?
suggestion is encourage your members to interact with the page.
So you've got people in your congregation, and I would venture to say, even if you've got an older crowd, you have people now that are on computers that are on Facebook. And I would make it a point to post your Facebook address in your bulletin if you're still using a bulletin. In fact, I would even on any of your stationery, I would post your social, your social links. And if you've got Facebook, if you don't have a Facebook URL, you can go to Facebook and you can actually create a URL for your page. In fact, if you don't do that, it's usually just a bunch of numbers. So I would encourage you to create a URL and then post it in different places. Literature, information about your church.
Yeah, basically in all your communications, right? You're gonna any of the communications you're putting out there, you want to go ahead and post. Check us out on Facebook as well. So these are ways to, and then also encourage people to get involved at those locations.
Yeah. And again, getting back to posting, your communications. I mean, on my email address, on my little signature on my email, I have, our Streaming Church TV's Facebook page. I have a Twitter account and those kind of things, and they're neatly in there, so they look fairly decent. And they're not overwhelming to people, but it gives people an opportunity to click. And they can like your page or maybe be involved in your page. So interact. I would encourage people occasionally to do it. Maybe not every weekend, but if you're making announcements, maybe have a slide. If you have, if you do your announcements where somebody just gets up and talk, hopefully you're not spending a lot of time making announcements. We've covered that before, but occasionally mention, hey, we have a Facebook page. If you haven't been there lately, check it out. If you have for a while, if you are on Facebook, like our page, or again, the pastor might post something that's would be stimulating. He could point people to Facebook, and so interact.
Yeah, you may post something and say, if you don't agree, then go to our Facebook page, or if you do agree, then let's take up the conversation there.
Yeah, and what happens is that becomes kind of viral, so to speak. More and more people get involved in that thing, and you get a lot of people involved. Excuse me. All right, so interacting with people, encouraging your members to interact with the page. What's the fourth point?
So
Steve?
Next on our list, highlight outreach events.
Excuse me. Highlight outreach events. Now, I think this is really good. And again, if you really want new people to come to your church, it doesn't stop with Facebook. Ideally, you should be reaching out to the community as much as possible. And when you do this, be sure to highlight it on your Facebook page and let people know, your church is going to be there. So again, if you've got something going on, an event, find an image or create an image so that you have an image tied in with your post.
The event.
Yeah. And it's easy to do that now. You don't have to have Adobe Premiere Editor to do some of this. You can use Paint, you can use GIMP, you can use different programs to actually make a nice image. You can use it on your Facebook page. You can use it on maybe if you have slides that you show Sunday morning. You can put it on different platforms.
Right. I know a lot of churches will create graphics for each of their series they're going through. So kind of in the same light, right? You just have an outreach event. Let's create a graphic that's going to represent that outreach event and then use it in all your material and including
Yeah.
in your Facebook post about the event.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the stuff you're doing here, when we talked at the very beginning about how it can be overwhelming with all these different platforms, but if you can create certain graphics, you can use them on multiple platforms.
Right.
I need something to drink here. Facebook icons is the other point. So number 4 was highlight outreach events. The 5th one is put your Facebook icon everywhere. Now, we kind of touched on that a few minutes ago in your communication,
right.
But you should really have let people know on everything you have that you have Facebook. Just like you would put your church's address, your church's service times. Let people know you've got this link to them that they can connect with.
Right.
And if you do that, you're going to find more and more people involved.
Yeah. One of the things I was watching TV recently, and I noticed there was an advertisement for some company, and they, on their ending splash screen, they had a Facebook icon. And I was thinking, what? There was no way for me to click on that Facebook icon, and it didn't have the address for their. It was just an advertisement, in my opinion. It looked like it was an advertisement for Facebook within the advertisement for Coca-Cola or whatever it was. And but I think it sends a message that you can find us on Facebook. So even if even they don't even have the address, or there's no way for me to click in a TV commercial.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So. Here's one that I think is really important as we talk about this, and that is have one person responsible, mainly one person. Maybe have a backup person. If you can coordinate well and you can communicate well, maybe you can have a couple people responsible, but at least have one person responsible for the Facebook interactions.
Right. This does a couple of things. I mean, the shared accountability is no accountability, right? So this also will establish some accountability for who's in charge for keeping up with our social media piece, and plus it kind of narrows those guys. You can give it to somebody that's going to be gifted in that area that enjoys that sort of thing as well, rather than saying, "Oh, hey, everybody, remember to make your Facebook post." This way, you can kind of get things focused and directed, and you can create a kind of a vibe as well if you channel it through a particular person.
Right.
That typically would have some skills in this arena, so they'd know how to put together the inviting posts and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'd encourage to find somebody that's obviously got some passion and somebody that understands what you're trying to do, because we mentioned this earlier, but you don't want a bunch of crazy stuff on there that doesn't make sense or looks ugly or
goes in several directions too. You don't want posts that say this and then something that says just the opposite.
Yeah. And the other thing about having one main person responsible, that person is your go-to person. If you have a lot of different people posting, sometimes, and I've seen this, and we can get into this in another message, or another podcast. But if you post one thing at a time, don't sit there and post 3 or 4 different things all in the same sitting. Mm-hmm. So I've seen a lot of people get excited about this idea, which is great. But then they post a bunch of stuff all at once. And so what happens is that overwhelms people. And if you get this in your feed, if you like the page and somebody's posting 3 or 4 different things or more, I've seen it happen. It's like, this is just too much stuff for the other person to look at. So maybe spread it out a little bit. And again, if you have one person that understands that, then, maybe post, if you really do have a lot of great information, then maybe do it twice a day. Or 3 times at the max, but not all at one sitting. If you do that, you're going to overwhelm people. While we got some time here, Steve, one of the things I think that a lot of times people forget about is since we're talking about the Facebook page, go to your Facebook page and if you're the administrator, hopefully, go there and look it over real closely and see if it's up to date with details about your church. Maybe you might want to consider changing the I want to say the cover page. It's not really the cover, but the banner page, the banner that you have, the image it's on the top there.
Right.
I'm getting real technical here because I can't remember what it's called. But the image that you have, check and make sure it looks good. Make sure that maybe you want to freshen it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to really start using Facebook to reach people, which again we encourage you to do this, then I would say go through it with a fine-tooth comb and look at, are your service times correct? Did your service times change, a while back and you forgot to update it?
Right. And there's companies out there that will offer their services to go in and kind of give your Facebook page a makeover as well.
There are companies out there, and so if you don't have the time, you could certainly use that. It may be worth it if you're really going to take it seriously.
That means investing some serious.
It does. It may not be that much. I don't know what the prices are.
But
it's one of these things where a lot of times, if the page doesn't look good, the initial page doesn't look good because the images on the front are weird or they don't fit, or the graphics aren't right, then that's going to discourage people right away. But go through it and check, to make sure that your contact information, there's ways you can put videos on your page. Take a look at those things and see if maybe you can put some of those on there that are short and concise, that are accurate, that are going to give people a good experience. Kind of like, we've talked about your web page, we've talked about your website. You want to go in there and make sure it's fresh. You want to make sure the links are working. You want to make sure the information is up to date. Same way with your Facebook page. Make sure it's up. And again, this is not, some of you are saying, this is overwhelming. This is overwhelming. Just take it one bite at a time. Schedule it, set it up, do it. And then if you can do it on a regular basis, you'll find some interaction and you'll find some response. And there's other networks out there. We can talk about those later. Instagram is coming on strong. Something you might consider doing. The SEO apparently for Pinterest is high. Again, you might consider if you've got somebody in your church that does graphics or likes to take pictures, likes to take a lot of photography.
And maybe we'll dedicate one of these shows because each of the different products are going to have a different demographic that they're going to. Yeah. Facebook's probably the broadest.
It is. And that's why
probably the best target for churches right now, because Instagram I think is going to be really popular in the tweens and beyond. So Pinterest is going to have its own demographic. Right. So maybe we'll talk about some of that.
And even LinkedIn has some value. LinkedIn has value, maybe not so much for the church, but for the pastor, for the people on staff.
Right. They're all going to have their own little demographic that they're going to apply to.
But don't be overwhelmed by this, but start somewhere. And we would recommend if you're not really actively involved with Facebook, get involved with Facebook, start using it. And, make sure people see that you have a Facebook page on your website. And as we said earlier, on all your communication. And you'll start to see some ways that people will start connecting. So, all right, good. So we're just about out of time here. So ways to get a hold of us. If you have a topic you'd like us to discuss, or maybe you want to have some feedback on this deal, how can people get a hold of us?
So one primary way, support@streamingchurch.tv.
Support@streamingchurch.tv. You can always check out our website, streamingchurch.tv, or churchapplive.com. And also myflock.com. And actually, when you go to our websites, you can actually chat. There's if one of our
customer support chat there, so typically during business hours. So
you can chat with us, or you have questions. And so we'd love to hear from you. And again, give us a review on iTunes. Church Solutions Podcast is what this is called. iTunes will help you. You can go there and help us, give us some ideas on how we're doing, the direction we're going. Okay, awesome. So, folks, thanks for listening to this edition of Church Solutions Podcast. He is Steve Lacey. I am Phil Thompson. And we will catch you next time. Have yourself a great day.